Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and happy birthday, Marines. Let me start by thanking Colonel Sullivan and his team for allowing me the opportunity to celebrate the birthday with you this evening. I know your best wishes are being extended to he and his family for a speedy recovery, but knowing Sully, he'll be back on his feet in no time. My intent tonight is to introduce to you a U.S. Marine hero that probably most of you have never heard of. And an incredible American Gold Star family that lost him. My hope is that you will see and hear the linkage of this story and our Commandant's message on how to overcome or confront the challenges of life through courage, loyalty, and faithfulness. Corporal Ron Payne Jr. was killed on May 7th, 2004 in southern Afghanistan. He was the first U.S. Marine killed in Afghanistan under Operation Enduring Freedom. Corporal Ron Payne Jr. stood 6 feet, 7 inches tall. To say he was a giant amongst Marines would be an understatement. Ron and I served in the same infantry battalion based out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. On the evening of May 7th, 2004, Ron and his team were in search for a high-value Taliban insurgent when they were ambushed. Ron's actions that night allowed his team to survive and live on. It was my honor and my duty to recover and carry Ron's body off the field of battle. In doing so, I removed one of his identification tags and stuffed it in my pocket. Before going on, I think it's important if I share with you just a little bit about who Ron was as a man and a U.S. Marine. Ron grew up in Lakeland, Florida, with two loving parents, Ron Sr. and Eileen Payne. He had two siblings, brother and a sister. Throughout their lives, Ron's parents had taught their children that anything worthwhile in life comes from hard work and being men and women of character. Ron Jr. had those attributes in spades. Throughout his life, Ron excelled both academically and athletically. So much so that during his senior year at Lakeland High School, he earned a football scholarship to the University of Florida. During his junior and senior year in high school, he developed a relationship, a friendship, a mentorship with his older sister's boyfriend, later her husband, a gentleman by the name of James Riches. James Riches had always had a dream or a desire to be a firefighter. So in early 1999, he moved his young family to New York City. On September 11th of 2001, James Riches and his ladder company were the first to respond to the North Tower of the World Trade Center. James Riches never made it out of the North Tower. 9/11 had a profound effect on all Americans. But to Ron Payne Jr., it was personal. Later that same month, Ron had given up the serene and peaceful conditions of a college campus for an environment of intensity and controlled chaos when he found himself on those sacred yellow footprints at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Arizona. After months of training, Ron found himself at his first duty assignment, 2nd Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion, based out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. After a pretty tough deployment in 2003 to Iraq, Ron and his company were attached to the 1st Battalion, 6th Marines. This is where I first met Ron. Man. Physically and mentally tough. He had the intellect and understanding like he was a seasoned officer when it came to tactics. So much so, his platoon commander at the time, a guy by the name of First Lieutenant John Knitz, had been after him to put in a commissioning program. When it came to leadership, Ron did everything well. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Marines, if there is such a thing as a natural born leader, Corporal Ron Payne Jr. is one. I remember days before May 7th of 2004 and talking to Ron and his team, as Marine leaders, when we talk to our Marines that are in harm's way, and asking those questions, are you ready? Do you have everything you need? I can remember like it was yesterday. Ron's response. He looked me straight in my eyes and said, "No sweat, First Sergeant. God told me we're on the winning team. As a matter of fact, we need to find, fix, and finish the enemy." After ensuring Ron's body had a dignified transfer home, I had to return to my company. We were still facing a very formidable enemy, and I would tell you some of the most ghastly locations of southern Afghanistan. I remember the company had stopped for the night for some much-needed rest. And as I exited my vehicle, looking at the cold, hard dirt outside of it for a place to sleep, I rolled up my utility jacket to utilize it as a pillow. And as I laid down on this makeshift pillow, I couldn't get comfortable. Something kept poking me in my face and neck. I remember jumping to my feet and swearing at the Marines around me, telling them how much I hated this place. Continuing to swear, I threw my utility jacket to the deck. And then I heard it. A small panic. It was Ron's identification tag. My emotional state did a 180-degree turn as I picked it up, looked at it, and began to smile. You see, this was Ron's way of telling me to stop bitching. To cherish the moments and the opportunities I still have that he no longer did. Months later, we returned home to our families, our friends, and our loved ones. And to my surprise and discomfort, Ron's parents were there. I had written them a letter after Ron's death, but this would be different. Now I would be standing in front of them. What would I say? How would I say it? I will tell you, I had more fear in that moment than I ever did facing the enemy. But Ron Sr. and Eileen were so strong and gracious as they coached me through this very difficult conversation. Towards the end of the conversation, I reached into my pocket to grab Ron Jr.'s identification tag to present it to his father in return. And his father reached out with his big hand and collapsed my hand around it and said, "You keep that. But make me a promise today. Promise me that you will never let my son's story die." Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Marines, there is no doubt Corporal Ron Payne Jr.'s actions on May 7, 2004 inspired all the Marines of that battalion to treasure every moment we still have with our families, our friends, and our fellow Marines. I want to thank you tonight for allowing me the opportunity to faithfully keep my promise. In closing, I'd like to share with you one of my favorite poems. This poem was written by Johnny Bank Rowell, titled Dear Brother. To me, this poem captures the true essence of who we are and what we are as U.S. Marines to this great nation. But most importantly, it captures who we are to each other. Dear brother, walking the roads of our youth, through the land of our childhood, our home, and our truth. Be near me, guide me, always stay beside me so I can be free. Free. Let's roam this place, familiar and vast, our playground of green frames, our past. We were wanderers, never lost, always home. When every place was fenceless and time was endless, our ways were always the same. Calm my demons and walk with me, brother. And if your heart's full of sorrow, keep walking. Don't rest. And promise me from heart to chest that you will never let my memories die. For I will always be alive and by your side. In your mind, I am free. Ladies and gentlemen, U.S. Marines, if you will join me in a toast. To all the Marines that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this great republic. And if you love a Marine, raise your glass. And if you don't, and if you don't, I recommend you raise your standards. Happy birthday, Marines. God bless you. And may our Corps live forever.